Bobby's Sneaky Billions. It's just a really nice title. It rhymes together. It feels good. You've got the picture of him smiling like, hey, what up, boys? I got all your money. You know, I don't know, it just feels good. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Well, pack your bags and get your sunscreen because it is time for an international adventure. From Barbados to the Bahamas, Delaware to the Netherlands, California to the UK, Activision Blizzard are accused of mass tax avoidance.
Oh,
and
shit.
today, you are going to learn how it all works. And this isn't your normal boring taxes. This is high-octane, action-packed, international tax avoidance.
This is
and
exciting.
I think you're going to enjoy working it out quite a bit indeed.
Okay, well, fuck.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another report.
Super taxes,
TaxWatch
exactly.
UK is a think tank that aims to increase public awareness of tax-related issues, especially on large companies, with their goal being to promote a fair tax code where companies pay their fair due. One of the ways in which they do this is by drumming up interest for juicy targets.
Okay.
Last week it was Rockstar Games, and this week it's Activision Blizzard. TaxWatch UK are clearly on the warpath, today accusing Activision Blizzard of shifting around €5 billion to avoid tax.
Speaking of taxes, guys, I just want to say I'm going to go over to Stormwind. If anybody wants to trade me any gold, I'm going to be right over here at the Wizard Sanctum. So feel free to trade me any gold for your taxes just whenever you get a chance. And I'm just going to be sitting here hanging out while we watch the video. Okay, guys, let's get back to it. Just wanted to make sure that we could kind of, take advantage of that.
Okay. First, though, YouTube has changed the algorithm. It seems like it now focuses on likes, watch time, subscriptions, and bell ringing, as evidenced by the new analytics they have shown creators and recent changes we've seen. So we're probably not going to be in your recommended feed as much these days. So if you would like to support our efforts and our work and be notified, please consider subscribing and ringing that bell. Okay, let's get into it. TaxWatch opened by claiming that Activision Blizzard moved €5 billion to companies in Bermuda and Barbados between 2013 and 2017 in order to avoid paying taxes. They also established that tax authorities in the United Kingdom, Sweden, and France are currently investigating them over transfer pricing irregularities, and that they're facing a large bill in back taxes and penalties. They gave an example of when they settled with the US tax authorities over a transfer pricing dispute relating to their 2009 to 2011 tax returns that cost them $345 million. It sounds pretty hardcore, right, doesn't it? They also detail a recent dispute with France relating to 2011 to 2013 tax returns and a 2016 Swedish bill of $400 million that they got after the Swedish tax authorities went in and audited them.
What the fuck is this?
TaxWatch also play up the size of Activision Blizzard, pointing out that they have a market cap of $37 billion US, which is a good bit more than EA's $28 billion or Take-Two Interactive's $13.7 billion. Now, before getting into their breakdown and the real juicy meat of this video.
So the Swedish tax authority, it's the fucking Swedes that are shutting down Blizzard?
TaxWatch do republish a statement from Activision Blizzard where they say they are proactively engaging with tax authorities across the globe to ensure that they are compliant and that they are reviewing their company structures relating to King. That said, elsewhere they do say they will vigorously defend any larger claims, and that shows that they may be willing to budge a little bit, but the main thrust of this report is likely something that they would fight against. But okay, with all of this preamble, it's time to get into the real meat of this video, and that is corporate structures. Okay, so TaxWatch provide a chart that details the Activision Blizzard corporate structure, and it's pretty big, it's pretty complex. So Activision Blizzard Incorporated, headquartered in California, is the overall parent company. That's where Bobby and co work. You then have 4 companies under that. There is ATVI LLC in Delaware, Blizzard Entertainment in California, AB Partners CV in the Netherlands and Bermuda, and then Activision Publishing.
Blizzard's getting called out for tax evasion.
Yeah, but nothing's gonna happen. This is all legal, right? These are legal tax loopholes, right?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I don't know.
In Delaware. Now, Blizzard Entertainment and Activision Publishing, they are the 2 companies that we're all familiar with. The other 2 subsidiaries, quite a bit less so. Now, Activision Blizzard International, the overall...
Wait, tax avoidance, it's legal. Wait, difference? between tax avoidance and tax evasion? Tax avoidance is legal while tax evasion is not.
Oh my god. Dude.
Wait, what?
Wow. I guess that's true, and I suppose streamers should be the ones most aware of that, because a lot of streamers moved to Austin to avoid state tax, right? So it makes sense.
Wait a second. So they're mad that Blizzard's trying not to pay taxes in a legal way? I'm so confused here. Wait, there's a what the fuck? Why? The point is to close the stupid loopholes. Agreed, but it's not Blizzard's fault for taking advantage of something that's in the system. What the fuck? Oh, it's unethical. Like, what do you mean unethical? Oh, it's unethical to give the government not as much money. That way they don't spend it all on bombs. They can only make 5 bombs with your money instead of 7. Give me a fucking break. If you don't want people to do the thing, then you don't put the thing in the rules.
Company, they barely make a profit because that company pays royalties to 2 offshore companies, ATVI-CV and ATVI International SRL. Now, ATVI-CV is a Dutch partnership residing in Bermuda, whereas ATVI International SRL is in Barbados. Now, between 2013 and 2017, $5 billion went to ATVI-CV, but then in 2017,
It's a clever use of tax mechanics. That's all this is. It's a clever use of tax mechanics. And can you really, really say that's a bad thing? Come on. Everybody does it. Like, I mean, everybody's going to try to save money on their taxes. It's like you write things off. You do whatever you can. You claim, people like kids as dependents. Like, these are all rules that the taxes have.
ATVI transferred IP to ATVI International SRL in Barbados, meaning that around 50% of the royalties from Activision Blizzard went to ATVI-CV, with TaxWatch assuming the other 50% went into ATVI International SRL. So that's the 2 sort of offshore tax havens. Now let's take a closer look at that company, ATVI-CV. It has 0 employees, and in 2017 it generated $476 million in profit, earning $1.1 billion in 2016 and paying 0 taxes on any of it.
That's smart.
The company's main cost is that of purchasing intellectual property from
There you
Activision
go,
Publishing. And
dude, like, imagine, all right, think about everybody that has a job here. Every single one of you makes less money than a company that nobody works for.
Jesus Christ.
That's incredible.
Blizzard Entertainment. Now, this situation with ATVI-CV was the focus of an IRS, or Internal Revenue Service, that's the United States tax body, investigation. The IRS believed that ATVI-CV should have been paying a heck of a lot more to the US companies for the IP rights to the Activision Publishing and Blizzard Entertainment properties, and this resulted in ATVI-CV having to pay an additional $1.4 billion to Activision Publishing and Blizzard Entertainment, which then resulted in Activision and Blizzard having more profit, which meant increased tax revenue for the United States. And this example really does show you kind of how things work and how the shell and subsidiary companies work, because you've got to understand these different companies legally are kind of like different legal entities, and really it's the shuffling of money between them and how those deals work. So in this case, the shell companies in the tax havens were purchasing IP rights for next to nothing, and then the profits were being funneled to them, where there's a significant significantly reduced tax burden. Now, in this case, the IP was, as I said, sold off to the shell company for not that much money. So in order to get their tax money earned by really those American companies, the IRS had to say that the Dutch/Barbados subsidiary should have paid more money for the intellectual property rights. So by forcing them to pay more, they increased the revenue for Blizzard Entertainment and Activision Publishing. Now, those are both United States companies in Delaware and California, and that meant that they fell under U.S. taxation. So that's basically how the Internal Revenue Service were able to get the money. So that's kind of how this thing works. It's pretty crazy, right? Let's head over to the United Kingdom. Of course, TaxWatch UK is, it's a UK think tank, so they'll be pretty focused on the UK situation. Okay, so Activision Blizzard UK is the main UK company making significant revenue but barely any profit. In 2017, they had an income of £75 million with a profit of just around $500,000. TaxWatch dug into Activision Blizzard International statements, and they found that 12% of the company's revenue came from the United Kingdom. Now, combine that with the company's 2017 reported revenue of $4.8 billion US.
What's more complicated? This or the guy from yesterday trying to calculate the day the world would end? And I'm just curious, like, because to me at this point, like, it's extremely like, what the fuck are we talking about? So many numbers here. Like, let's just go with the rest of this anyway. We're already halfway done with it. Yeah, this is Titanfall. This is, yeah, probably you're right.
And that's about $572 million US of revenue generated from the UK, which is very different from the reported income of £75 million that year from Activision Blizzard UK. And yes, even with the exchange rate, which I think is like 0.8 something at the minute. But anyway, why is that? Well, quite a lot of UK revenue is actually generated by Activision Blizzard International BV, a company in the Netherlands, and that includes a lot of things like World of Warcraft subscriptions. So the UK company, Activision Blizzard UK...
So we're all accessories to tax avoidance and potentially tax evasion. Everybody playing WoW is a criminal.
Weren't they already?
That is a limited risk distributor, according to HMRC. That's basically like our equivalent of the IRS for the American audiences. Now, a limited risk distributor, that's a company that buys and sells goods like any distributor, but offsets its risk to a parent company. Now, the impact of this is that Activision Blizzard UK can argue that less profit should be allocated to the UK, instead allocating it to Activision Blizzard BV, the parent. Now, this money goes there, but it then is wiped out in royalty costs to ATVICV, the Bermuda company that we talked about earlier in the USA section of this report.
I really hope
the real zinger from TaxWatch's report is related.
I really hope that there's like an accountant at Blizzard that's getting paid a lot of fucking money to think this shit up. Like, I mean, honestly, like, they need to be paying whoever thought this shit up a ton of fucking money, because this is clever.
If there's someone that's making another person a lot of money, that initial person should be paid a lot of money.
Exactly.
You know?
To the United Kingdom. They refer to a new UK law that covers taxation on royalties shifted to tax havens, including Bermuda, but not Barbados, that originate in the UK. Now, the result of this is that the money that ends up being shifted over to ATVICV could fall under United Kingdom taxation. TaxWatch UK estimate this could raise up to £57.2 million in tax for the UK, but that since half the money is probably off in Barbados, it's more like £26.1 million. TaxWatch do believe that the multinational companies generally will restructure to avoid the impact of this new law, as does the UK government, oddly enough, so they don't think that internal royalty
you can never get them
within the Activision Blizzard subsidiaries
just make a new one.
UK will end up being taxed.
That's great, dude.
A similar breakdown for King, another business unit of Activision Blizzard. So that's basically the TaxWatch report. It's essentially just pointing out loudly and publicly, especially with a company that many people know, that many gamers know, they're pointing out how this works. And this is not really a case of Activision Blizzard doing this uniquely. This is done across the world by many, many, many different companies. And essentially, yeah, they will always try to minimize the amount of money they pay to tax. Indeed, the CFO's team, the Chief Financial Officer's team of a company, one of the things that they will be tasked with doing is reducing their overall effective tax rate. And that will involve...
Well, fucking, I mean, like, this is the thing. Is like, I mean, imagine having a CFO. chief finance officer who goes in there and he's like, you know what? Let's just keep paying a lot of money for taxes. Yeah, it sounds great. Because don't you hire that guy to like save money or something? Like, I don't know, it's like part of the job.
Using tax incentives where possible, and it will also involve even tax avoidance. Now, there's quite a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Essentially, one of them is the legal thing where it's like, it's a bit shady, but it's all above the books, and you're basically just playing around regulations as hard as you can.
Clever use
and then
of tax
there's
mechanics.
the other, which is illegal and will get you into a lot of trouble.
That's fine.
Now, what we see here is essentially the law trying to creep up to basically say, hey, some more of your money falls under our tax jurisdiction. We want that money. And that's why you see, all of those ongoing investigations. Now, you might be wondering, why don't countries just say, no, enough of this. You cannot do that. The money generated in our country, we are going to tax it. And that's a very interesting question because on the face of it, you would think that's obviously fair. That would obviously generate quite a lot of money for those countries.
Pretty much.
I suppose the thing that the governments have got to work out is, at what point does that impact the competitiveness of their country? At what point is a country okay with something a bit shady happening
That's a good point.
It means they keep the jobs and the employment generated by those companies?
That's a good point.
So that's basically the thing that's going on. And it seems like the way that countries deal with this is, instead of doing really big, disruptive, sweeping legislation, they kind of like inch forward more and more and more, trying to slurp up, a little bit more tax here, a little bit more there from the companies. And that seems to be what that new UK law is trying to do.
Okay.
But if you look into how that law is written, if you look into what the government believes about that law and what TaxWatch believes in that law, it does seem like it's something that will be pretty easily sidestepped by a lot of the large multinationals, which does kind of make you wonder, why are they doing it? And then I suppose the other interesting topic that hasn't really been touched on in the TaxWatch report is that of how the money is actually used. Because one really interesting thing is, right, you get all of your money into these tax havens, but what happens when Activision Blizzard International wants to spend some of the money that is sitting over in ATVICV, often in tax haven? Now, this is actually a problem that Apple have came up against. So Apple are known for having a just gargantuan war chest. They have so much cash. Yeah. But they actually have quite a problem.
You know how much a fucking iPhone is? It's like $1,000. You know the difference between like this iPhone and the last iPhone? Basically fucking nothing. But there's a new one, and people camp out, and they get in line to buy the new one. Every once in a while, they make some pretty big changes, right? But for the most part, it's the same shit every single time.
Apple have put all of their cash into tax havens, like even Ireland is an example of a tax haven, and they've put a lot of their cash there. But if they actually want to spend that, if like American Apple wants to spend that, they're going to incur a pretty heavy tax penalty in actually getting that money over. So, I mean, from my perspective, you do kind of wonder why they even bother in the first place. And if I was to do a rather uneducated speculation on it, I would maybe think that it's good for their short-term numbers, and maybe they would rather have a large untaxed war chest and only bring in the money they need and incur taxation on the money they need whenever they bring the money over from the tax haven to the jurisdiction in which it's being spent. Something along those lines. Though if you know more about tax law, if you're an accountant, please correct me and let me know.
I have no fucking idea.
Assumption is incorrect.
I don't know.
But it is a very interesting story, and really one of the reasons why I wanted to cover this was, like, it does a good job of explaining how these corporate structures work, and I think there's serious educational value in disseminating information like this and talking about it. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed writing this video. I really enjoyed going through the TaxWatch report. It will be linked
This shit
below,
is complicated.
and I hope you learned something from this as well. I hope you enjoyed it.
What the hell?
So with that, thank you very much for watching
Holy
this video.
shit.
As I said at the top of the video, if you want to support our channel, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell. It does seem to matter quite a bit more these days. But yeah, with that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Okay. If they're not breaking the law, then I don't see it's not a bad thing, right? Obviously, they're going to try to save money. Like, if you don't want people to do something, then make it against the law. I think the issue is you have all these fucking loopholes that people use to save money, and then other people look at them and they say, why are you using the loophole? It's like, don't create it if you don't want people to use it. I think it's ridiculous. And like people are acting like, you know, I can understand people wanting the rules to change, but to act like Activision or Blizzard are bad guys because they're trying to save money is ridiculous, and it's probably also hypocritical. Every single one of you guys tries to probably write things off and save money on your taxes, and if you don't do it right now, you're fucking stupid. Everybody does this by writing things off, having different deductions, you know, claiming kids or parents, depending on if you're taking care of them or not, as, you know, dependents, and then losing money for that or not having to pay as much money for that. There's a million different ways that people do on like a very personal level to avoid paying money in taxes. So I think that it's kind of hypocritical for people to complain about companies trying to save money doing things that are legal. Now, obviously, these things are not necessarily fair. They maybe shouldn't exist, but I don't think you should ever criticize somebody for not actively handicapping themselves and trying to lose money and give it to the government. I don't think that's fair or logical at all. Right-wing claiming there. So what's this here? They make it against country law. Ironic how people ban people who try to take advantage of game mechanics, but it's okay for them to take advantage of tax mechanics, huh? That's a stupid comment. Okay, that's just a stupid comment. I don't know why you've typed that 8 times. It's a stupid comment.